How's it going, everybody? This is Mr. Finance, and again, today we're going to discuss what had happened for the past entire week inside the stock market, and we're going to do some forecasting regarding for what will happen for the next weeks, as well as some of the discussion and technical analysis regarding for some of the stocks or some of the securities that we think our viewers will be really interested to take a look at. So, without further ado, let's get it started. So, first of all, let's take a look at Nasdaq. So for Nasdaq, for the past entire month, Nasdaq has been performing pretty well, and it is forming sort of like a short-term uptrend pattern. And the only reason why it is forming a short-term uptrend pattern is because for the past entire month, a lot of big financial institutions as well as a lot of hedge funds are trying to take their profits from their short positions. So that is why it is basically triggering a sort of like a short squeeze for these big indexes. So that is why we see a sort of like a short-term uptrend. However, I think there are a few things that we need to keep in mind. Is that for the new uptrend, it seems like that we are forming a new consolidation between 315, or you can say 316 to 280. And the reason why I think that we have a new resistance at 317 is because previously 317 is actually its previous support from a significant bounce back level. So in this case, we're going to use 317 or 316 as our new resistance. And for the next entire weeks, even though there's still some earning reports that's going to happen, but what I think is that we're going to see some drop back or some cool down for the next entire week. So the reason why I say so is because first of all, let's apply the Bollinger Bands. When we apply the Bollinger Bands, you can see that for the past two weeks, QQQ has been over exceeded its upper Bollinger Bands for quite a few times, about 3 times, or actually 4 times. And whenever in a daily chart, whenever that an index or whenever stocks that is exceed over its Bollinger upper bands, that definitely means it is overextended. So, and again, if we take a look at its relatively strength index, it is also basically in a overbought area. So in this case, whenever that we are in a overbought area inside a bearish market, this is definitely not going to be a good news. So for now, this is the reason why I think that we might going to cool down for the next entire weeks. And when you take a look at, let's say, when you take a look at that past entire month's uptrend, you can see that even though when we see an uptrend, there's still going to be a drawback. So for example, it started from July 1st, even though we see a pump until July 8th, we still see that it goes back down again into the same initial level, and same things happen again. Started from July 14th, it has another bounce back. It has another bounce back to 307. And after 307, we see three significant red days, or three significant drop days. And again, we still see another three significant gains days from July 27th till July 29th, which means that we're probably going to see an even more dramatic drop down to compare with our last drop down. So that is why, according to this pattern, I think for the next week we're going to see a much cool down market to compare with last entire month. Next thing, let's take a look at S&P 500. So S&P 500 basically shares the same story. Again, institutions and big hedge funds have been taking their profits. So that is why it is forming an uptrend, short-term uptrend pattern. And again, if we apply the Bollinger Band as well as take a look at indicators, we can see that it is also in an overbought area, in an overbought zone. Inside the relatively straight index, it is definitely in the overbought zone. And when you take a look at the Bollinger Bands, it has been quite exceeds its upper Bollinger Bands for quite a few days. So this definitely means that it is overboughting, and it seems like that we might see some cool down for the next few trading days. And another thing that I think our users will also need to keep in mind is that for S&P 500, 412 will be its new resistance level. The reason why I think 412 will be its resistance level is because 412 used to be a really significant support level to help S&P 500, or in this case, a SPY, to bounce back. So in this case, that's why we use this as our new resistance level. And another thing that our viewer might want to keep in mind is that previously it had a 379 to 380s gap. And usually for this big index, it will usually fill in this gap. However, I don't think that this gap will be filled for next week, just because that right now I still think that the market is still in a more of a positive side rather than a negative side. So regarding for this gap, I think there's definitely a few days that we can, there are a few days or even weeks that we can wait to fill in. And next, let's take a look at Dow Jones. So Dow Jones shares basically also the same story, but it is able to stay itself inside its bigger downtrend pattern. So if you take a look at this pattern, you can see that basically right now on Friday, Dow Jones has been reaching its top level of its pattern, and according to its previous movement, it seems like that it will basically go south for the next few trading days. And when you take a look at its relatively straight index and as well as applying for the Bollinger Bands, it also shares the same stories as QQQ and SPY. So in this case, don't hope too much, don't put too much exposure inside all of these indexes, because we have seen a lot of indicators that shows us that it is overextended, is in an overbought area, and we might need to be more conservative in this case. So after we have our discussions regarding for the three big indexes, right now let's take a look at all the stocks or securities that we selected for our viewers. So first of all is Amazon. So obviously for the past entire 2 weeks or 3 weeks, Amazon has been performing really, really well. And plus with the earning reports that it has, it actually helped Amazon to jump actually quite a lot. So right now Amazon is sitting at 134.95, which is around 135 price level. And one thing that I think is really interesting about Amazon is that it is currently at in the between of two gaps. So the first gap is between 137 to 140, and another gap is between 122 to 132. And the reason why we currently have two gaps is because the gap between 122 and 132 is formed due to the jump of price level from the earning reports. And the first gap is the gap that was created back in late April and early May. So for now, what I think regarding for what Amazon will be doing is that Amazon might be able to fill in its upper gap. However, due to the current economy condition, I don't think there's going to be another extension because the entire market has been extending for quite a while. So what I think is that Amazon, even though Amazon had a good news regarding for its earning and its future growth, I feel like what Amazon is going to do is that it's going to fill its upper gap between 137 and 140, and then it's probably going to have a cool down later next week. So, but another thing that investors will want to keep in mind is that Amazon is also really close to its 200-day moving average. And a lot of investors know if a stock is able to break above its 200-day moving average, it definitely means a more positive and more bullish move regarding for the security. So I think this is some of the thing all of our investors or all of our viewers will definitely need to keep in mind. So Amazon is a tricky play, but if it feels like right now it is going to fill in the upper gap and maybe going to cool down for the next after it filling the gap. So this is what we have, what we think of regarding for Amazon. And next, we're going to talk about Merck. And again, Merck, we have been talking about Merck for quite a while. And for Merck, even though it has been experiencing a tough past 2 weeks, but a good news regarding for Merck is that it is able to hold itself within its long-term uptrend pattern. So even though for the on July 28th and 29th, Merck has a really significant drop down with heavy volume, but those drop down was also able to hold within its upper trend. So I think for now this is a good sign for the securities for the securities to have a more positive news. The reason is because for the past 2 days with significant heavy drop of volume, this indicates that all the buyers still think Merck is still able to hold within its 89.34 level, which basically it's around its previous support around 90. So I think so for me, I do feel like Merck still has the opportunity to goes up, especially that when the overall market is cooling down or when the overall market is going south, a lot of healthcare, a lot of medical related securities will goes up. So this is something that our investors definitely want to keep in mind. And the other thing that our investor want to keep in mind is that Merck is also in an oversold area. So right now, on its relatively straight index, is in oversold area for quite a few days. So this is also another indicators that help us to understand if we want to add more exposure or wait a few days to confirm for an uptrend or rally. So yeah, this is another recommendation that I definitely want our viewers to take a look at. And finally, it's going to be Humana, and Humana is another bio or healthcare related stock that has been performing well. And to compare with Merck, I think Humana has been performing really great. Is that Humana is not only, even though it has been experiencing some drop days for the past entire weeks, but it is able to hold its support level above 381. So I think this is definitely a positive news. This indicates that the buyers, investors think Humana is still price level is still above 481. So this means that for the past entire 2 to 3 weeks, even though they have been experiencing some rough movement, but the movement have not significantly influence or impact the overall price level. And when all the bad news or the bad indicators are finished, I think the positive news are going to drive up the entire price level for Humana. So this is definitely something that our investor definitely want to keep in mind. And another thing, again, for Humana, when you take a look at its relatively strength index, it is also close its oversold area. So this also means that we are currently in a area that investors could add more exposure. And furthermore, we can also apply the Bollinger Bands. And for now, it seems like Humana is able to hold hold at its Bollinger Bands level. So this definitely means that it is still in above its middle Bollinger Band, and if a stock it's above it can be is able to hold above its Bollinger Bands, this still means that it has a positive rally, it has a positive movement. So this is another way that you can indicate if a stock is still healthy or is still having opportunity to have some room to growth. So yeah, these are some of the securities that we think will be really interested for our viewers. And again, if you guys have any concerns, any questions or any comments, feel free to leave it on the comment section. We will definitely look at it and trying to improve ourselves every single day. So yeah, this is our video for today, and hope to see you guys next time.